What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. So, I guess, well, I'll just start. This is the fucking introduction to our very first, three-way. Well, a podcast three-way. So, welcome to A is for Alcoholic. We go one letter at a time. This week's letter was K, and we were going through a few different things, and I thought that K would be good for keeping it in touch, or keep in touch with yourself,
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
And our friend, our good friend Coda, was nice enough to join us on the program today, and I don't know how far back to go. I mean, you guys have known each other since high school.
Well,
right after high school.
Right after high school, yeah. Neither of us were in high school when we met.
No.
I should have been in high school.
I think Jerry had recently dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Coda has been an old friend of ours for a long, long time. I've known Coda since 1998. These guys have known each other for Jesus.
Like 92, 93.
Yeah, right around there.
So Coda, you have I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of your history and your background, and I mean, obviously it's all shared. We all shared a lot of fucking stories and nights, and you smuggling me away from a very bad situation with the police, and different stuff like that. So are
you talking about the smash flash incident? Or
yes.
The sea cucumber. Yeah.
I got drunk and I fucking I took my pants down in a place and I wasn't thinking, and there were people there that were not interested in seeing that kind of stuff, and it was.
Is it where he does like the nice podcast version of I mashed my dick against a window in a blackout?
Basically, and Coda was there. He's like, get in the back seat, fucking get down.
No, I mean, as I remember, we were just kind of milling around, and we actually went to like a dance club that was like, kind of like down the street a ways. And we had all gone in there, and then I came outside for some reason, and there was like 3 cops standing outside, and I overheard them looking for a person fitting your description. So I quickly went back into the club, and we dipped out of there like quick as possible because I realized they were looking for you.
Jesus Christ. Wow. Yeah, I can't now that you say that, I do have this vague memory of that.
It's all coming back.
Yeah, that was that was one of those things. I mean, it seemed like it was all well and good, and they're the kind of funny stories to tell, but if that had turned out differently, man, like that could have been a really bad, thing.
Could have been disastrous for.
Yeah, you might have ended up with like a some kind of registry offense or something.
But if you call it a blue dot, you would have been a blue dot, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm so it's just like I'm just glad that I wasn't supposed to be a blue dot that day. Right. But so I guess one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is to kind of share like your story and. Your relationship with alcohol and drugs and addiction and all that stuff, because you've been sober now, like what, 2
years? Yeah, just over 2 years now. So my date was February 22nd is what I call the day that I got sober. February 21st is when I had a little kind of run in 2018, that is. So yeah, I mean, I basically, I mean, I have a really long history as far as that stuff sort of goes. You know, it started back in, high school, more or less. Um, I was actually thinking about this last night. I was thinking, you probably want to get into that. And I was trying to sort of go over, the decades or whatever. And it goes back that far. I mean, when I met you, Jerry, we were just out of high school, but we were, pretty well on our way. I mean, we cracked 40s and smoked blunts like,
Yeah.
every day. And that
Yes.
was like, that was part of the routine, it was like go up to Safeway, shove a couple 40s in our pants, walk out, and then off we go. And it sort of goes back like that far, really. And that was sort of the genesis of it. I would say that, you know, then there was the summer of 1998 was a good example. Like, when I met you, we were fairly well into it too. I mean, the first night I met you, John, like,
Oh, geez.
you guys had all dropped acid and like we drank all night long. Like we walked into your house or whatever. Jerry was friends with you guys, and we just proceeded to just get drunk and smoke and just party it up until the sun came up the next day. I mean, and then some. That was,
Yeah.
and that whole summer kind of went like that, really. I mean, it was pretty hardcore. And then I sort of made I moved back to Arizona in the next year, and that didn't end well. I ended up, getting into harder drugs and sort of the boredom and that lifestyle. And so, I mean, I don't know. It just goes back a long way, man. It's always been, sort of a constant. But then, working in the service industry and the bar industry and stuff in my late 20s all through my 30s and stuff, I really didn't, kind of hit my stride. I mean, I really hit my stride kind of the decade of my 30s. It was sort of prevalent, like everyday sort of thing for a good, 10 years, really up until the point that, 2 years ago when I was in my daily routine and, had a little too much to drink before I came home, which was a nightly, daily thing. I got behind the wheel and I got into an accident on my way home. And so, it was my fault.
So going back to like high school and stuff like that, and you, so I know that I know both of your guys' parents, right? And these are kind, sweet, loving, like I've never had anything but a positive, reaction and or interaction with these people. And so I've always thought like my alcoholism, and I think Jerry would agree with me, and I don't know if you would, Coda, that it's kind of inherent already, and that my childhood traumas just kind of exasperated something that already existed within me. Would you say the same of yourself? Or would you say it was something that developed
I would say, well, here's the thing though, is, to a certain degree, I mean, it does sort of run in my family on both sides, and neither one of my parents have ever had problems that way, but that doesn't mean that it's not in their families as well. The other thing about it, I think, is that, that being said about my parents, yeah, they are the greatest people in the world. But here's the thing about that is that at that time, during that time, both of my parents worked, all the time. And so, especially during my junior high and high school years, like, we didn't see a whole lot of each other in over dinner and stuff. And so I think that there was just, it wasn't so much that there was any kind of trauma. There was just a distance there. I mean, my parents worked their asses off. I mean, both me and my brother, we went to Catholic school, and then my brother went on to college, and I'm 2 years behind him. So financially, my parents just, they were sort of absentee a little bit, I would say, more than anything. It's not that they were, neglectful or anything like that. It's just that there wasn't just a whole lot of time. They couldn't keep an eye on me, basically, is what it was. So
Yeah.
I think that really kind of contributed to I was just sort of, not like I was on my own or anything, but I was left to my own devices. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that definitely plays a role in it. I mean, when you're, young people, and the more supervision that you try to impose on them, the more that they'll try to rebel is the thing. And so as a parent, I can't even begin to think where you would, have that line between, making sure that they're all right and trying to steer them in the right direction and letting them have their freedom to develop as a person and not have them kind of rebel against you. It's a really fine line and a hard thing to do. Well, probably one of the hardest things for a parent to try and do. So, so I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, it definitely played a role in how I developed those habits and got into that sort of thing. But really, it's a bed of my own making, and
sure.
You know, I
Yeah.
don't, you know, I can't say that, you know, that one thing or another had anything more to do with it than the fact that I was just a bored asshole, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And John and I've had this conversation before because like I can relate to you, Coda, because my dad was never around. He worked all the time. And so he left, well, he didn't, I don't want to put it on him because that's just the way they did it, but Leanne raised us all. And
Yeah.
we were all ape shit. There was four of us going fucking nuts. So she was just like, get out of the house. So
Right.
yeah, I was once again like on my own in the desert, running around John and I have talked about this before, and I always said, well, if it wasn't these circumstances as a kid, me being who I am, genetically what I am, I just would have found a reason to drink. It was just
Right.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, like my mom wasn't there, my mom yelled a lot, whatever it was, like I'm awake, let's get fucked up, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe there's lots of different research about how, there's maybe some genetics and sort of
Yeah.
some and even some sort of neurochemistry and biochemistry sort of things involved with it, personality type. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I think maybe it does to a certain extent. Not maybe that's not the end all be all factor, but it certainly, I think it has to do with me. I mean, I've always been prone that way. And a lot of human beings are, I like stuff that makes me feel good. I like stuff that makes me feel good right now. It's just, I mean, all of us are kind of hardwired to a certain degree with that factor, and so it's just a matter of how willing you are to jump right in with both feet. And I've always, just one of those people. I've always been willing to go for it, I mean, and that's part of it. But that being said, there's lots of different things. But really, I think what it comes down to is just there's lots of different things to factor in, but in the end, it's always just, it's what you choose to do, and I chose to go that way for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
I mean, I think that's a common thread. And you say stuff like, I just want to feel good right now, and I want to jump in with both feet. And I think that every single one of us, it was like, oh, here's somebody else who doesn't think I'm fucking crazy, and in fact might be crazier than I am. I should go hang out with them. You know what I mean? And so, and somebody who will not only encourage my crazy behavior, but somebody who will
co-sign it,
who
dude.
won't, it will co-sign on it, right? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, well, I don't know, man. I don't know that was it between us as far as being friends and stuff goes. I think it goes much further than that. Like with Jerry and with you, John, it was, we were going to be friends right away, no matter what. I mean, I just feel like that. Like that first night I was talking about when we hung out, dude. Like, I don't think we didn't hang out like after that for maybe a day or so. Like we were just always it. And some people are like that, some people, and especially at that time in your life when you find somebody who's, like you said, willing to sign on to the crazy and endorse it and all that. But like some people are just meant to be friends, some people just immediately click like that, dude. And, I mean, and we did, and that's, I've always felt sort of blessed that way, regardless of the fact that some of those times were stupid crazy and really like, I mean, I don't regret any of that shit, guys. Like, I really don't. I can't say that I do. I mean, I can say that, some of the things that some of those decisions that I've made along the way have affected my life in a negative way. But shit, I mean, I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't trade any of those times, dude.
I agree with you 100%. I'd even say the only things I don't even regret, it's more like I cringe at things like when I hurt someone's feelings or when I was mean to someone or I took some, you know what I mean? Like when I did something mean to like one of you guys. But other than that, all that other shit is just learning, just having to get to this point.
And it was, some of it was really fun. You can't deny that. I mean,
I would not. No, and you've brought this point up too, Coda, because I remember talking to you after we started this podcast, and it was one of the earlier episodes, and you said to me on the phone, you were like, I got to push back here because I can't remember if it was me or Jerry or who, somebody said something to the effect of like, oh, well, so much bad shit. And you were like, there was a lot of fun stuff there. And so, I mean, I don't want to, I mean, if it wasn't fun, we wouldn't have done it. If we didn't think of when I'm 21 years old, I'm not really thinking of the consequences of my health or relationships and stuff like that. And so I wouldn't say that I necessarily regret it because it got me here, but there certainly were actions that could have been that were detrimental to my development as a human being.
Sure.
So
no question about that.
So a little bit, it's a little bit of both. So I agree with you that I don't want to sit in regret or just to admonish the entirety of my past. Right.
Yeah.
But and again, and it doesn't make any difference, right? We can't sit here and go, oh, if only I had done
Right.
this, then that would have been
Right.
better. Because I
And
have
that's
no
that's the
idea.
crux of it, really. And like you said too, that's one of the reasons. I mean, we're here now because of all of those things, and so I guess my point is, I wouldn't trade me now, for someone that could have been or should have been or would have been had I done
Word.
something
Yeah.
else. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I can't think that way, and I don't want to. Like and it's not that I don't really like the fact that I am not drinking anymore. The fact that I have gained a certain this time of sobriety. It's probably been one of the best things to happen in my life. And at this time in my life, I don't know if I was ever ready for it before, is the thing, because it's one of those things, we've talked about this before too, is that you can't really do it for someone else, and you can't do it because you think your future may turn out well. I mean, you can do it because you think you want a better future for yourself, but you have to do it for you, and you have to do it because you want to do it. I mean, Maricopa County, the justice system did have something to do with my decision. I see that right now. But at the end of the day, like, I could have gone back to doing what I was doing before when all of my legal problems were, cleared up. And I did do that. I had a DUI in 2010 when I lived in Seattle, and I got through that. I stopped drinking for like 6 months, and because I had to do that therapy thing where they would randomly, pee test me. And I failed a couple of those, which cost me money and time. So eventually I did give it up. But I don't know if you remember, but like when I finished that program, the day that I got out, I got on the bus to go home, and I got off the bus in front of the Viking bar, and I went straight into the Viking bar and got shit canned.
Yeah.
That day. So it's like, I wasn't, I didn't take that 6 months of sobriety that I had then and run with it. I immediately went back to doing what I was doing before that. Once the legal consequences were, pretty much over with, I immediately went back to doing it, and it landed me right back in the same position, 8 years later. So, but like I said, I wasn't ready for it then, and I didn't want it. I didn't want it. So, it really, I don't know, it's something that you got to want for yourself, and you got to go for it. But when you do, it's great. Like, anybody out there listening, just take my word for it. Like, all of the fun and all of the great stuff and all of that, don't get me wrong, it's really, it's worth it. It's worth the work to try and change it if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'd say the hardest parts for me, because I know in the past I'm really prone to being hyperbolic. Like, I'll totally exaggerate shit because that's just my personality at times. And I know in the past in this podcast I've said, oh well, it was hell, and it wasn't all hell. And honestly, just to kind of get into detail, it was more hell when I was alone. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I was with you guys, we were in the social aspect. We were hot. We were like running on each other, laughing and shit. Those are always so positive. That made me who I am. But when I was alone and everybody was gone and I was still fucking drinking and just all alone in that house, just smoking all by myself, that shit was hard. Like, those were the times that propelled me to want to get to where I'm at, And it started affecting my wife and kid and family and shit. Then I was like, well, damn, this is not manageable anymore. But all the stuff that we shared together as a group, I would say like 80% of it was dope. There was that 20% where like John's mashing his shit against the window.
Or
somebody's like trying to
ruined
Walter
dinner or something.
That's
I mean,
why.
there were
someone's
some
ruined
awkward
dinner.
moments, and like where somebody ends up crying, or like I said, somebody ruins dinner, or somebody breaks a wine bottle and stains the carpet or stains the couch or something. It sucks. And I mean, there's lots of those moments. Actually, there was a lot of those. You just don't remember those. When you're in the thick of much. The time has this weird way of glossing over some of the hard stuff, and really, I don't know whether that's your mind forming scabs on things that are hurtful and hard to deal with, or but it's just, the good times are the ones that sort of stand out after. Time is weird like that, but
I would only say that I value the conversations that we all have, whether on air or not, much more sometimes than the conversations, we've had in the past, in that they're more positive and uplifting, because there was always this vibe, and Jerry and I have talked about this, of like, we got to toughen each other up, because you never know when someone's
Yeah.
fucking gonna come for you, right? So you got to be tough. So if I'm mean to you, if I treat you like shit, it's because somebody's gonna come and treat you shittier. And I feel like that maybe that kind of stuff wouldn't work anymore. I would not be interested in that kind of,
No,
interaction from. Go
no,
ahead.
that's us just growing up too, finally,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we were total shitbags to each other a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Like, I mean, me and Jerry going back as far as we do, like, God, we were, dude, when we were young, back in those APT days, Jerry, we were horrible to each other,
We were
like,
really
all
mean
the
to each other. Oh my God.
time. You know, and I was thinking about that too. Just recently I went down to Tucson and Gary got married again, and I ran. Of course, Nate was there and everything,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of, and Josh was there, me and Josh, but our interactions were different too. Like, I mean, and still there's a little bit of that sort of meanness that goes on, or sort of that joking sort of thing,
Hmm.
but even those guys are a lot sweeter towards each other these days too, man. It's just like, after a while, that's just kind of, that's
Yeah.
kid machismo kind of stuff too, John.
Right. Hmm.
We all sort of grow out of that eventually, kind of shit. But
I feel like
So
Coda and I brought it a little bit too into the group from Tucson, being graph
yeah,
riders, and then we brought it in. We're like, toughen up, Johnny. Come on, you gotta make your nuts sandy. Come
and
on,
dude,
yeah,
that's
and I
true.
you
We rode the shit out of all you, anybody that was
yeah.
from any place but Arizona. We kind of took it out on a little bit.
I
Apologies
think
for
I
that.
had no, it's fine now, but I just remember one time having a fight with Jerry all drunk, and I was like, listen, dude, this is not fucking Arizona, and APT is not here, so shut the fuck up. And APT was like the graffiti writing crew. I was like, I'm so sick of hearing about it. Like, it doesn't fucking exist anymore. Get
Yo,
over
dude.
it. Like,
John just got us together to air out his resentments, dude. This is
No,
what
man,
this.
he's perfectly welcome to, Jerry.
Oh no, yeah, he's
no.
absolutely is. Yeah.
So one of the things I want to talk about, and I don't want to spend, I mean, we could talk for hours about the drunkalogs. I mean, we've got 20 years to go over, more than 20 years, Jesus. But so Jerry and I rarely, if ever, I had one car for a while there, but I sold it as soon as I couldn't get it to work, and Jerry never drove, but you had a car, and so you drove a lot,
Yeah,
both intoxicated and otherwise, and you, like, that was just right. I mean, that was par for the course any
yeah,
given night.
absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, even after that first one in 2010, and when I had that DUI in Seattle in 2010, I got rid of my car like pretty much first thing, and so I didn't get a car until I moved back here to Arizona in 2012, because I didn't really need one. You don't really need one in Seattle. But I did get one as soon as I moved back to Arizona, and I was really good about not driving, after drinking for about, I don't know, man, I'd say about a year or two, and then I fell right back into it, like driving drunk, especially. I mean, the bar, of course, is the same. You'll hear the same story from everybody that ever gets behind the wheel of a car when they're drinking, and that is, the bar was only about a mile and a half away from my house. And
Yeah.
so I would get off work and I would go to the bar, and all I had to do was make it that mile and a half home, and I was good. And I did that every day. Like, I did that drunk mile and a half every day. So it wasn't a big deal. I mean, to me, it was just, and that's the fallacy of that thinking, though, is that, I mean, it only takes one time to make a mistake, and it's just such a dumb thing to do. Like, nobody was seriously hurt in the crash that I had, and I'm really lucky about that too, because it was pretty gnarly. Like,
So can you
Really?
go over that day? Can
yeah,
you go,
sure. I mean,
like,
just like any other, man. It was, springtime. The thing that was different there was two things that were different about that day, and that was, number one, I was sort of broke. I was sort of down to my last couple of bucks. So I was at the bar after work. I'm a painter, and so trades guys are notorious also for hitting the bar after work. So it was just kind of part of my whole thing, was just sit with the boys and have a few after work or whatever. But I was down to my last couple bucks, and so I was sitting there. I was feeling kind of sorry for myself or whatever. But then I had this pressure washer that this guy wanted to buy from me, And so I remember sitting there at the bar, and I was like, I hadn't even had like, my usual complement of drinks or whatever. And this guy comes up, this guy Butch, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to buy that pressure washer from you. Here's $100. I'll give you $100 for it." And I had paid like $50 for the thing or something. So I was just like, score, right? Like, dude, the
Yeah.
worst thing that you can do, anybody, especially if they're kind of depressed, a little bit down on their luck, is like wait till they get about half cocked and then give them $100 while they're sitting at the bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just like, okay. So that was the only two things that were different about that day, man. It was another day just like any other. It was like a Wednesday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something, and then. So that $100 just and I sat there for a longer than I usually do. I get off work a little bit earlier, so I'm usually home by before sundown. And because I had that extra $100, I sat there for another I don't know how long, maybe an hour and a half. But the sun had gone down, and it was dinner time, and I was about an hour and a half or 2 hours getting out of there later than I usually do. And I was, as you can imagine, with that extra $100, it propelled me down the road a little bit faster, shall we say. I was driving way too fast, and honestly, I don't really remember too much about the actual. In my mind, I thought I saw something in the road, and so I jerked the wheel of my car. And so what ended up happening is that it sent me into kind of an overcorrect steering situation, and I was going far too fast. So my tail swung around, and I started fishtailing, and then reflexes being kind of slow, I overcorrected again, and so I went fishtail to the other side, and then over into oncoming traffic at a 90-degree or perpendicular. So my car was moving sideways into oncoming traffic, and I didn't get T-boned, but I ended up T-boning another guy like pretty hard right there, in the oncoming lanes, and so. It was a fairly gnarly accident. I totaled his truck pretty good. My car was kaput. I mean, the whole front end of my car was pretty much destroyed. Although the airbags didn't go off.
Jesus.
And, I don't know. It was sort of strange, but after that, like I remember everything after that really well. Like it was one of those things where, like, when you're the adrenaline dump or whatever, the gravity of the situation makes you really sober really fast, no matter how drunk you are. So I remember. The people, the witnesses, the cops showing up, the tow truck, everything, the breathalyzer, going in cuffs, going down, being transported to the police station and all that, doing the breathalyzer test. It's funny, I had a marijuana brownie that my boss had given me in my pocket. So when I'm at the station. Oh, well, the funniest thing, let me tell this real quick. I'll make this quick. So this rookie cop that transported me down to the station, he was a real young guy, probably 22. And we go into this underground parking garage, and he starts backing into a parking space, and he's kind of moving sort of fast. I could tell he was sort of agitated or whatever. Young guy, he's raring to go or whatever. And he slams his police car into this pillar trying to back into this space. And so, and he hit it pretty hard, man, because he fucked up the back of the cop car. And so after they breathalyzed me and stuff, they emptied my pockets. But before that happened, this commander guy comes in, and he was like, I got to ask you these questions because, the officer was basically in an accident. He's like, are you okay? Do you have any pain, or do you feel like you've been injured or anything? And he was kind of looking at me funny. And I could tell it was sort of a serious question. He didn't know which way I was going to go with it. He didn't know if I was going to start, holding my neck and calling a lawyer or whatever. And I was just like, no, whatever, man. It's totally fine. Like, I don't think your cop car's okay. And you may want to check on your rookie over there, because he's probably going to get, shit for the rest of his career from the rest of the guys. But then, so basically, long story short, I was really cool about it. And so from then on, the cops were nothing but like super sweet to me. Like the guy, when they were searching me, the guy found the marijuana brownie, and he looked at it, and he asked me what it was, and he smelled it, and he looked at me funny, and then he crumpled it up in his hand and threw it away in the garbage disposal, in the wastebasket that was standing right there. Mm-hmm. Like, he knew what it was. Like, there's no way he didn't smell what it was. And the look on my face, because I had forgotten it was there. And the look on my face when he asked me what it was and pulled it out of my pocket must have told the tale. But anyway, so like those guys, because I didn't say anything and didn't make a big deal about this accident that I was in after I was in my accident, like they took it easy on me. They let me go 15 minutes after that. They let me walk out of that police station like that night.
So you drunkenly T-boned another car and you went to they booked you and then they let you go?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they didn't. I mean, they didn't even book me. They didn't. They never put me in a holding cell. After I took my breath test, they asked me a few questions or whatever, and they didn't even fingerprint me or take my picture that night. They just booted me out of there. They gave me a little thing to come back before. Actually, I didn't even have to go in and do the fingerprint and mugshot thing until after my court date. So
Jesus.
yeah, they just my mom called them, or my mom knew that I had been in an accident. So my mom came and picked me up, and as soon as she got there, they later, dude. I didn't spend a minute in the holding cell until after,
And the other guy was fine. The other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they had some minor injuries. I did get a thing from my insurance company that they were asking for their medical bills to be paid and whatnot. They both received some minor treatment for, bump on the knee, and I think his wife said that she messed up her back. But from what I understand, like they're kind of, I mean, they were both sort of living off government assistance, and they're sort of I'm not sure how to describe them other than the fact that they were sort of just kind of skating by anyway, and the fact that I hit them probably improved their lives by a lot. Just I hate to say it that way.
Jesus.
It's not how I mean it, man. Like I'm but like the circumstances, everything being equal and everything, the money that they got for their injuries from the accident probably set them up for another good long while the way that they were living. So
What was the fallout eventually? Because it wasn't shortly thereafter that you had called me, and I think you had called Jerry. And
yeah.
And going back just a little bit, like, what was your perspective on the fact that Jerry gets sober in 2014 and I get sober in 2015, and you and I had been in contact after that? Like,
Yeah.
did you have any sort of, like, what were your thoughts on, like, oh, my friends are out of the game, or oh,
No, I mean, I was just kind of, to tell you the truth, guys, I mean, I was just kind of going about my business. Like I kind of knew, in the back of my mind, it was one of those things that I kind of ignored a little bit. I mean, we hadn't been in really close touch for a number, couple of
Yeah.
years at that point. And Jerry, like, I don't think you and I had contacted one another before I gave you that phone call in probably 2 years.
Yeah, it'd been about 2 years. Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, like, I knew about it kind of secondhand. I knew that you had gotten sober, and John, I knew that you were, but like, I was really scared, and I knew that something had to change, and I knew that the process that I was going to go through was going to be like, you have to stop drinking anyway. But at that point, what I was going through in my mind was like, this isn't going to work anymore. When there was a scene when my parents picked me up at the police station, and the conversation in the car on the way home that ensued was kind of like, all right, this is the moment where you decide what you're going to do going forward here. Like, either something is going to change, or or it's not. And I mean, I don't really want to get into too much specifics about how that conversation went.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's not like anything super raw or anything, but it was a turning point. So for me, it was okay, I need to make a decision here, and I want to stop drinking. I need to stop drinking. I want to save the relationship with my parents and my family, and I want to live through this. Because at that point, it was kind of like, well, do I really want to go on here? Because that was the question I was asking myself, was, do I want to go through this, or do I want to just kind of take a powder now, sort of thing? So,
Yeah.
And so,
you had contemplated suicide
absolutely.
Seriously?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I would say absolutely at that moment, the way that I felt in that moment,
Right.
thinking about what I had done, I mean, it doesn't really dawn on you that you might have killed somebody until you almost killed somebody, and
Yeah.
then think about the reason why you almost killed somebody, and how stupid and selfish, and just all of those things kind of, it's one of those moments where all of the denial that you ever had in your life about your substance use and your alcoholism or your abuse is just that veil of denial is ripped away in a moment, in that 1 second that it takes you to lose control of the car, and then you impact. It's just like all of the denial is ripped away, and it can never come back. You can't ever see things quite the same way again, and so, like I said, that was part of the decision making. But in that moment, the way that I felt there, it was definitely a moment that I contemplated, like an easier way out, shall we say. So yeah, and that's, like I said, I mean, I was pretty panicked, I was pretty scared, and so And so I called you guys, and I called Jerry first. I was like, well, who knows something about this sobriety deal? And then it it
Uh-huh.
kicked into my brain like, oh yeah, Jerry's sober now. Like maybe I'll give him a call first. And then of course, Jerry said what he had to say to me, which was, I mean, that conversation didn't last more than probably 3 minutes, but
No,
Uh-huh.
sure. Yeah.
I immediately felt better. And so, I mean, you had mentioned John too in that conversation. So of course, immediately I called you shortly after that. In fact, the very next phone call I made was to you, John, in which basically you said the exact same thing as Jerry,
Which was?
which was
Yeah,
like, just go to a meeting, dude. Like,
I was gonna say it probably took him a lot longer to say it though.
not really, Jerry. You'd be surprised, man. He was just like, just go to a meeting, go
Yeah.
check it out, man. Like, this is how I did it. Was basically, I mean, both of you said the same thing. Was just like, well, that sucks, kid. Yeah, you're in a spot. Here's what you want to do. First of all, you want to go ahead and go to a meeting. And then John was the only thing John had to add was like, yeah, I'm gonna send you a copy of this thing called the Big Book, which
Yeah.
arrived in the mail, a couple of days later. But so yeah, that was it, man. I mean, that was sort of, and like I said, I don't know if either one of you, like, you probably remember the conversation actually better than I do, but I was really panicked. Like, I was scared
Yeah.
shitless, dude.
Mhm.
I remember it really clearly, actually. Really
It was,
clearly. Yeah.
it wasn't just the legal consequences that had me so panicked. I think is really, I mean, I was having sort of an existential crisis at that
Oh,
moment. And just to know that somebody had sort of been through that before, just to, like I said, even 3 minutes on the phone with the two of you, both of the conversations were fairly short, but like that 15 minutes probably did keep me from walking around the corner and blowing my brains out. So yeah, it's good. I mean,
Well, what was I'm happy to take phone call anytime. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, no, it was a trip, dude, and I could hear the panic in your voice, like I really did, and I was like, oh shit, because we always used to joke, because Coda's the oldest. He always has been the oldest of everybody, and he would always, like, we'd have some problem with a girl or have some issue or have something, need some advice, and he'd be like, John, let me give you some of the Uncle Coda sage-like advice right now. And so it was kind of like I heard it in your voice and I was like, he's really fucking scared. I don't think I've ever heard him like really scared before, and it's like, okay, we'll take it easy. And I mean, go to a meeting, I guess, is because that was the only thing that helped me. And now you did that, right, for a little while.
yeah, the first 6 months, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, first 6 months I went pretty steady, but
Well,
then
that's-
6 months, the first 6 months, yeah.
But you found, and again, like it's not for everyone. It doesn't work for everyone, and then not everyone's gonna jump to it. You, how would you like describe that transition from that 6 months and going, yeah, this was really good and very helpful and something, I'm glad is there, to like, well, I kind of just do my own thing, or
Yeah, I don't know, man. There was sort of a process that went on there. By the time I hit my 6 month mark, I mean, here's how I'll describe it, just to keep it kind of short. And that is, I mean, as you guys both know, like, I went to Catholic school all the way through kindergarten through high school, and so like anything that has to do with organized religion or institutionalized religion or any kind of ties to it, I'm immediately sort of, it does set off a bias in me. I'm not going to lie about that. Like, it definitely sends up a red flag with me. But here's how I feel about how I started to feel about AA is the same way that I feel about church and religion, and that is, there's some really, really great things about it. The core principles of Christianity and most of the world's religions are really, they're at their base, at their core, they're really excellent. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love thy neighbor. Things like that. Basically, don't kill people, don't steal. Be kind and be loving towards other human beings, and have compassion and not hate. And those are, as a basic principle, it's awesome, and it works great for a lot of people, and it does a lot of good in the world. Institutionalized religion itself as an organization, as a this force in the world, is one of the most evil things that has been perpetrated upon the human race, in my opinion. I don't feel that quite the same way about AA. Like, I don't feel that AA is evil as it in itself. I feel like its core thing is really great and it's helpful, and it helped me, and it helps millions, and it's helped millions of people. And the basic tenets of it are something that are great. But like church, I don't need to go every week, and I don't for certain reasons. Like there's lots of things about it that I think are great, but there's lots of things about it that just aren't for me. And there's reasons why, and one of them has to do with, like I said, the religious connection that I'm always going to be skeptical and sort of standoffish towards. And the other thing is just there's a thing about religion and about AA, I think, that is not beneficial, and that is that some people use it as a crutch. Some people use it as sort of a substitute for their drinking or for whatever thing that, I mean, they really, and I see it and I saw it, and it sort of creeped me out, guys. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's certain people
yeah
that like it becomes their world, it becomes their community, and they really go in and they go all in on it, and they go all in to the point where it's like I felt like there was a certain cross section of the AA community that really is using it as a crutch, and in the same way that people use organized religion as a crutch, and it's not a good thing, so like I said, the basic principles of AA I completely agree with, and the 12 steps I got no problem with at all. It's just the organization as a whole doesn't work for me.
Right.
And also I feel sort of awkward in some of the meetings that I went to are big meetings here in Phoenix. And so there's a lot of, I don't know, it seemed very cliquish and high schooly to me in some ways, which did not jive well with me at all. And being that, I mean, I'm not the kind of person that connects really easily with people on a deeper level. Like, I'm really good at being a server, and like you guys are about, John, especially you, like, you're really good at interacting with just strangers. I have a tougher time with it, but just connecting and making really solid friends is something that doesn't happen with me very often, and as I gotten older, it's even less more so. So it's hard for me. Like, in a social situation, I always felt sort of awkward in those bigger groups. And so, like I said, there's a lot of different reasons why I stopped going to the meetings, but I've made it work for me. Like I said, the principles of AA are sort of my base, but I feel like it wasn't really, and I felt like I wasn't really contributing anything back. You know what I'm saying? And that was sort of one of the pillars of the AA thing that I do agree with, and I didn't really feel like my input was going to be constructive, shall we say. Like, I mean, if I wasn't going to be completely positive and all in, I felt like I really didn't have any business being there. So,
I want to push back on one thing, and I'm not promoting I'm not here to promote any program, for anybody at all, and certainly not AA. But when you say people use it as a crutch, I would say a couple things. One, I would much rather people be using that, even if it does seem a little bit overzealous and crazy, than using alcohol or drugs. And I know you would agree with me on that.
I do.
Right?
I do.
And also, I think that it can be valuable in a way, any sort of program of recovery, any sort of program of living, as a transition, right? So you found something that you could work with and then transition into creating whatever works for you, right?
Right.
So the way that it was described to me is like those core tenets, just the core tenets, not the people who are running the meetings in Phoenix, not the people who are running the meetings in Oregon or California or anywhere, but just the things that were written down a long time ago. They just make sense as a way of living that's better than what I was doing before.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think that transitional, being able to have that and learn that, and when I think back to like the way that we were I don't want to say the way we were living, but the things that were acceptable to us as a way of living. Like, you remember coming over to my house and I'm just like, yeah, we don't do the dishes anymore. We just put a fucking curtain up and a sign that says enter at own risk. That is a true story. We just stopped doing fucking dishes. My roommate was eating his cereal out of Ziploc bags.
I remember. That was gross.
So, dude, I went to his house in Sonoma, and he had half of a couch in one room and the other half in the other room. Like that
So,
modular couch you guys
yeah.
had. Yeah.
I think I remember
So,
that. Yeah.
so I would only say that, and that I can appreciate where you're coming from, especially as somebody who, and I think that that was one of the things that you told me about your conversation. Jerry just said, "Don't worry about the God thing. Don't worry about the God thing." And
Yeah.
you're like, "Yo, dude, they've
I
been
wish it.
shoving God down my throat for."
Right. That's really funny because that's one of my fucking stories I tell to people. I like because I meet a lot of AA people, and I've kind of waver in between both of your philosophies on AA, you know. But whenever I meet other people in the program, like, yeah, my one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, he got sober, and I was like, he was just getting sober, and I was like, don't be scared of the God shit, man. They're gonna talk about God a lot. Don't let it freak you out. And you're just like, dude, I went to Catholic school from fucking kindergarten to fucking I graduated from high school, like. That's old hat, Wagner.
Yeah. No, and it
Because I was
was for
being
me
like kid
too.
gloves with you because I like didn't want to scare you away from it. Because I was
No,
like, dude,
no,
if you get
I
it in your
appreciate
brain, it
that.
might help, you know?
You know what, and I don't, after, like I said, after about 3 or 4 meetings, I was like, what was Jerry talking about? They got God shit all over this thing, man. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, he lied to you, but he lied to you for a good reason. So, and I didn't, and I
I
knew
was
that's
like,
what it
don't
was
let it
here.
freak you
But
out, dude. I just didn't want to freak you out. I didn't want
no,
you to run for the hills, walk in
no,
and be like, fuck this, I'm out, you know?
no, no, and and I didn't at first because I realized, really what it was all about was, and like you said, John, it's a set of tools for somebody that knows absolutely nothing. Most people that walk into AA absolutely know nothing about what it's like to live, clean and sober. And so it really is just a basic outline, and it's really helpful. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, that first 6 months, it was the most helpful thing. It
Yeah.
really was. It was key. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'd be where I'm at, today, and where I'm at, like in life and in sobriety, if it weren't for those first 6 months, because I really didn't, know anything about it. And I think the other thing that I really liked about it, is the accessibleness of it, and that is, especially in a community like Phoenix, where there's a meeting every hour of every day, like in
Yeah.
any part of town, and it doesn't cost anything, and there's a fair amount of people out there that, especially who are addicted, who have very limited resources. And so that turn of the coin is, like I said, I feel really there's a lot of positive things about it, just in my own thing. And sometimes I feel like I'm sort of justifying it to you guys, like, yeah, I'm cool, I don't go to meetings or whatever, and I feel like you're probably sitting there, and I feel like some people are, hardcore AA people are always sitting back going, yep, it's another one, it's another white
Yeah.
dry drunk over here, not
Yeah.
going, like judging me, and like, yeah, it's not like that. Like, it's,
Dude, that's so funny you say it though, because I say this to John all the time. I'm like, John's like, I'm not judging you, Jerry, because he'll be like, did you go to like before we start the podcast, he'll be like, did you go to a meeting? And I'm like, dude, I haven't been to a meeting in like 2 weeks, and then he'll just kind of, okay, and I'm like, dude, but I'll be going soon, I promise. And he's like, I'm not judging you, Jerry.
I don't care.
I go to my daily meeting, Jerry. I'm not judging you. I brought
I don't
donuts
care.
today. I brought donuts. I'm like,
Oh
fuck,
man,
me.
I'm
But then-
skinny now. I can't bring donuts. I bring a bag of oranges, little
Right.
cuties now.
But then I'll have Megan to lean over and be like, "You need to go to a meeting, dude. Like you're being a fucking asshole right now."
She'll
And I really go just to be around the other drunks, honestly, just to hear someone else from my perspective, because I'm out in the world around normal people who are just doing normal people shit. So for me to be around recovering alcohol, that's the most important part, is to be around people who know what I know, you know? I make the jokes at work around normal people and they think I'm fucking crazy. They're like, not everybody drinks like an alcoholic, dude. I'm like, oh, you're right. I forgot. Like some of y'all just drink a half a glass of wine and it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, man, they're so amazing, those people. I used to be amazed by people who could drink all night, but now I'm totally floored by, like, my parents who can, have a half a glass of wine and not finish it. I'm just like, man,
Doesn't make any sense.
you are amazing.
Yeah.
Or you are
Like me and
weird.
Megan.
So-
Yeah.
Coda, I don't want to gloss over this because I mean you were very fortunate in the consequences of the accident that you were in.
Mhm.
But
I
there were
was.
consequences.
Sure.
And can you just like explain a little bit of like the legal part of what happened and what you had to go through
Sure, man.
because of the accident?
It's fairly similar just about everywhere in the country, really. I think nowadays, and that is, you uh, basically, I kind of got lucky in the timing of mine too, because my first DUI in Washington State was in 2010. This one was in 2018. If it had been a year earlier, see, they give you a 7-year grace period in Arizona. If you have 2 DUIs or multiple DUIs or one coinciding with the other within 7 years is considered your second one. And on your second one here in Arizona, you do mandatory jail time, which is not the weekend kind of thing or the work release like I did for mine. Although they did take that into consideration. So basically the penalties are, they vary depending on if you get a lawyer and stuff. But I mean, the long story short is it cost me, and it's still costing me because I have a breathalyzer thing in my car, which I have to have, for 18 months. And I didn't get a car until 6 months ago because mine was totaled. It took me, that long to save up for the car and stuff. So from that point on, I have to have the breathalyzer for 18 months. It was about $10,000. That's a good ballpark figure. It's going to end up probably being more than that, once it's all said and done with the increase in my insurance rates and some of the monthly fees that I have to pay for the breathalyzer, for instance. And then, there's $2,500 I paid a lawyer but all told, it's ballpark figure. It was around 10 grand. I did a weekend in the Maricopa County Jail, followed by a week of work release, which was I got released in the morning at 6 a.m. and then I had to return to jail by 10 that night to sleep. It's usually 12-hour shifts, so if I had to go, usually it's, you go out at 6, you go back in at 6. But somebody at the jail, I don't know how. I think once again it might have been the Glendale police officers looking out for me. I'm not sure about this, but when they did my work release thing, they let me out at 6 in the morning, and somebody made a paperwork error that said I didn't have to be back until 10 that night. So all I had to do for that whole week was, just basically go to jail and sleep for that week. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Yeah. It never happened, but they wouldn't let me in. I remember the first day I went back at 6 p.m. to go back into jail. They were like, you're not supposed to be here until 10 o'clock. And it was a funny story. I had to use the bathroom, man. I was like literally about to shit my pants. And I was like, please let me in jail, please let me in there. And they were like, dude, like it says right here on your paperwork that you don't get back in here until 10 p.m. Sorry, homie. And like the Maricopa County Jail complex is huge. And this was a really dire situation. So I had 4 hours and about 2 minutes to find a bathroom, or I was going to shit my pants and have to spend, the night in jail with shitty drawers. But I did manage to find a bathroom near on hand that somebody was kind enough to let me use in a parking garage. It was an actual facility. It wasn't behind somebody's BMW or something. But,
right.
But yeah, I mean, funny story. Like once again, the every decision that I made, like from that point where I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore, it felt like, especially through the legal process and stuff, and through some of the jail stuff, like it felt like somebody was giving me a break. And I don't know if that was karma or, like I said, the Glendale PD, because I was really cool about their officer smashing up the car while I was in it, but. Like it seemed like at every turn during that whole process, I got cut one break after the next. And I really did. Like they gave me, after the week in jail, I had to have an ankle monitor on. I was on house arrest for 45 days. And it's this little thing, and you have to, check in with it. And it has a little breathalyzer that it would go off, intermittently to make you blow into it to see if you've been drinking. Well, I had that thing for 45 days, and the fucking thing never made a peep in 45 days. It did not signal. It did not beep. It did not go off one single time while I had it on house arrest. I thought it wasn't even working, but when I took it back, they were just like, yeah, no problem, whatever. And I had people tell me, I had to do a little alcohol counseling group, and they're like, man, this fucking ankle monitor thing goes off like every 30 minutes. It goes off at 3 a.m. when I'm dead asleep. And I'm just like, because it could do that. It was a random thing. But mine never went off, not once in 45 days. Like, is that not like somebody giving you a break or something? I mean, you gotta wonder, right? Anyway,
some might say that it was a power greater than yourself watching how it is.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was looking at him too, and I was like, he's gonna drop that HP so hard right now, dude. I was
and
gonna do it too, though. Actually, yeah, I was like, oh, this is a fucking higher power.
okay, just because I'm a little bit skeptical of organized religion, like I said, does not mean that I don't believe, the basic tenets of AA. It doesn't mean, I still have a problem with the whole surrendering thing, but maybe I don't know, man. I can't say. No one can say.
Right. Hey.
But it does make you wonder. It did make me wonder too at the time.
Right.
And once again, that sort of thinking was a force of change in my life at that point too. So I won't discount it. Like I said, just because I don't like religion doesn't mean I don't like spirituality or God or the concept of either one.
So there's a book, and I've talked about this before, by the comedian Pete Holmes, called Sex, Comedy, God. And he spent some time with like Ram Dass and all this crazy spiritual stuff, like hardcore. And one of the things he talks about is God is just a metaphor. And they're like, well, a metaphor for what? And he says, well, exactly. We don't know. So we just use this as a metaphor. So, give it a fucking name. Call it, what is it? Jerry calls it the bear. The sky, like whatever it is, the fucking, And so, I mean, I don't care what you call it, but you're basically, in what I'm hearing is you to be like, and every single step of the way I kept catching a break as long as I made the right choice the next time around. And I'd be like, okay, well, make the right choice here and the right choice here and the right choice here. And thank God I didn't have to shit my pants and try to
say, if you were drinking, you would have shit your pants.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was weird, man. Like I said, that whole jail experience was just like, I mean, it was bizarre. Like I kept thinking, like, this can't, of course, me being skeptical, I was like, nah, this can't be a God thing or a higher. It has to be those cool cops that threw away that marijuana brownie and or maybe they passed the word down the line. I'm like, and then of course, thinking it over later, I'm just like, dude, how's some patrol dude from Glendale City PD gonna influence the guards at Maricopa County, one of the largest jail complexes in the United States? Like they got any fucking say on whether you get out of jail and when you come back. Like they give a flying fuck about you. Like it's definitely not them,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but it was funny, man. It really was. It was strange. That whole thing. Like that wasn't the only experience that I had that was just like, what's going on here, man? Why are these people being so nice to me? This is jail,
So do you celebrate your anniversaries? Anniversary?
Well, I mean,
but do you do anything significant or?
Not really, no. I mean, I always think about it on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like this last one, February. I mean, it was sort of a big deal. It was like, oh man, 2 years, like that's really cool.
It's a long stretch, man. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was very cool. I don't remember if I did any. I don't think I did anything special. I think I got some steaks and threw them on the grill for mom and dad and me and stuff, and gave the cats a little extra steak, and was just kind of it's sort of like your birthday. You don't. It's just another day, but you're just a little bit. You have a sort of a pep in your step that day. Just it reminds you. You think about it. Like 2 years. Yeah. But other than that, it's just another day. There's always stuff. There's just another day, man.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of another day, what are you doing this Saturday?
I don't know. Nothing really. Like, I asked mom to make a cherry pie. That's about it, dude. Like,
birthday pie.
Yeah.
I forget that all you guys, man. It's you, it's John, and then my little brother, and then my wife. Yeah, all y'all are in March.
Yep. And then Danny Klein is the same day as me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot DK's.
And Will's birthday is on the 17th of March.
That's right. Yeah. Do you still talk to Will?
I've talked to him a couple times. He invited me up. He wanted me to go run a half marathon with him and Tycho in Portland, and I just don't have the money to go do it. I don't have the money to fly up and so I told him we'd have to plan something for like this summer or something like that.
That'd be cool. So Will's in Portland, or
he lives in Portland, taking care of his dad or living close. He wanted to live closer to his father.
Yeah. Cool.
So he's doing something like that, or aunt or something like that, but he's closer to family there.
Cool.
But yeah. So I always ask this and this is something that like Jerry and I always talk about. Basically, the whole conversation is like, what are the things we do to fucking stay sober every day, and what are the challenges? And like, do you have like a personal program in your daily life, in your weekly life? Is there, shit is completely different now, right? It is like
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, although there's a lot of stuff that's the same, and I don't know, man. For me, like, I don't know. Life is still life. It's really awesome to be sober, and there are things that I do daily as far as you have like a physical routine that you're in. I do too, to a certain extent. Other than work, I try to walk. I try to remain. Basically, mine's kind of a three thing. It's just keeping my body physically in as best shape as I can, which is, if I'm feeling like, if I'm not sleeping or something, or it's just like, then I'm not getting up and moving around enough other than work. The other thing is like just downtime. Like I have a couple of hobbies like my guitars and some woodworking stuff that like I do. It's one of those things where I do it whether I want to or not, kind of thing. Like sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but I do it anyway because it keeps me busy, it keeps my mind occupied, and it just seems to just generally make me feel better about things, even if I don't want to do it at the time. It's kind of the same thing with the physical stuff. Like sometimes I don't want to get out and go for a walk, or go outside and work on my car, or do some yard work or something like that. Nobody wants to do that stuff, but you do it anyway. And once you get like halfway through it, you're totally fine with it. And when you're done with it, you feel a hell of a lot better. So, and the third thing is just, I mean, it's just, I don't, the third thing is really just trying to not be negative. I catch myself doing it all the time. I still do it all the time, where I
Yeah.
get into this little
Mm.
funky, negative Nancy kind of frame of mind. And it's just a conscious effort to not do that. When I'm doing it, I know I'm doing it. When I recognize I'm doing it, it's a conscious, like, one of the hardest things for me to do is just to like grit my teeth and go, fucking stop doing that. Like, fucking quit being so negative. It's not like that bad. Like, and that's just it, man. That's the only thing that's really different, is just catching myself getting into that negative frame of mind and saying, you know, literally sometimes it comes down to, having to physically force myself, don't do it. Like, don't do it. It's not, you know, and it works for the most part. And sometimes it doesn't though. And sometimes I just go to bed and stay in bed for a couple hours or until the next day. And then the next day I wake up and it's all new and it's fine. And it's okay that I have days like that. It's okay to have a bad day, and I got to cut myself some slack for it every once in a while. But it's not okay to have a bad day like every day. Just to have a bad day, like, and that's what I used to do all the time. Like if I wasn't having a bad day, I'd find a reason to have a bad day so I could go have a drink.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, I remember there was plenty of bad fucking days. Be like Jerry and I would talk. Oh shit, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. Coda's kind of fucking grumpy today, dude. I don't know what's up.
Dude, and like I'm still that way, and I try. Like I said, sometimes it's a force of my. It's like one of the hardest things I have to do too, is to bend my will and to stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell when
Yeah.
I'm doing it too, because my roommates or my cats will be walking on eggshells around me, and just like, oh, okay, now I know why they're doing that. I'm being a dick today. Like,
Yeah.
stop being a dick, mate. That's all it is, man. Just, what do you have to be a dick about? Like,
Hmm.
so you didn't make a whole lot of money this week, and whatever. Like, so what?
So, let's hope it's the worst thing that happens to you, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's.
yeah, most definitely. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, they're I don't know. I think a lot of people, when they're first getting sober too, is that they think that once you do attain a certain amount of sobriety, that things are going to be like this completely different thing. Your whole life is going to change, and that's not necessarily how it happens. I mean, it happens gradually sometimes. Like, it's just, and the way that my mind works is different, and I realize that now, but I didn't notice that change while it was happening. I didn't wake up every day feeling totally different or anything, and I didn't have this lightning strike of a spiritual epiphany at some point either. It was a very gradual sort of thing with me. um,
Hmm.
and that way of thinking, the way of changing my thinking, has been a gradual thing. um, but life is still life. I mean, my you know like you and I have said, John, I mean, what's the AA saying? Like you won't be insecure about money anymore, and all these the AA.
Oh yeah, economic insecurity will leave us or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the things about the AA promises which I really like, and I do think are true, and there's some of them where you're like, man, when is that financial security fucking card gonna play here? Like, let's drop that one on old Coda,
Mm-hmm.
But life is still life, man, and it's still hard sometimes, and you still feel negative, and you still have bad days, and you still wonder, what am I doing? Where am I going? How will I get there? Sort of thing. But it's a lot easier. It's not as earth shattering. It's not this maw of catastrophe and anxiety waiting to drop, or waiting for you to fall into. It's just like, this is your daily life, and these are things that you're going to have to deal with every day for the rest of your life. So the quicker you find a way to cope with it in the easiest, most stress-free way you can, then the better off you're going to be, And so I try and think about that, of course. But like I said, that way of thinking, that's happened gradually, and it happened over time, and it happened because I stayed sober, number one, but because I'm thinking about that sort of thing, and trying to make the right decisions, and trying to be sober,
Yeah.
trying to live differently than I used to. So
yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
man, that's awesome. I love that. The idea of like, oh, I got to catch myself. Like the negative thoughts don't stop coming. Because I found that too, where it's like I'll get them in the morning and like, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do this, and I'm like, who is that? Because that's not me anymore. But it's like that old me that's I'm still trying to like get rid of and push away, and like, like, don't listen to that person. I don't know who that person is in my head, but like, just whatever it is, don't listen to that person. It's just another negative thought, and you get better, like you said, you get better at pushing them away and replacing them, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you do kind of realize that it is that old nagging voice. I mean, I had a I had a short time in my life, in my early 20s, where I was into some hard drugs, heroin, to this, and Jerry knows this, but and I remember when I quit that, I did it, a sort of mommy and daddy rehab. I had like 3 Percocets and a puke bucket, basically, is how I got off heroin. And that's a whole nother story. But I used to have dreams. I remember after I had, kicked heroin, I used to have dreams I would have heroin dreams, and they were really intense about using again, and that feeling and the taste in my mouth and things like that. And they were really powerful dreams, and they would kind of bring back the craving and bring back this little demon, And alcohol was kind of the same way, although it's a little bit different, I find. At first, sometimes I would have these dreams, and this happened to me just a couple of nights ago. I fell asleep and I had this dream where it was kind of like the old times, and we were at at a bar drinking with friends and things like that, but it made me really anxious. Like I kept thinking to myself in the dream, like, this is wrong, and it was more like a nightmare, where I was just like, oh fuck, I'm fucking this all up again. Like, this is not the right thing. It wasn't like the pleasant, like, oh, heroin, or oh, a drink. It was like, oh fuck, like, this can't be happening. It was such a nightmare of a feeling too. And I remember waking up and thinking to myself, wow, I'm really glad I had that reaction, instead of, I'm glad the dream was that I felt that way in the dream, instead of like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like, I didn't feel that way at all. Like, it was scary. I mean, it scared me in a bad way, not in a way like, the boogeyman's going to get me, but like, like, oh dude, I just threw this all away, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a bad feeling to have that, to have the drink dream,
Yeah.
And I can't remember where I was going with that, John.
Well, I appreciate you sharing like the dreams, and I don't think, Jerry, you haven't had one in a long time.
Not in a while. Every time I'd wake up though, I told John, I'd like pat myself down like a bomb went off. Like I'd be like, I'd sit up and be like, fuck, not like a nightmare, but I'd wake up and like touch myself and be like, am I drunk? Yeah, and I felt the same way. I'd be like, fuck, I'm fucking up. I have to do this again. Like, I gotta do this all again. Fuck, I don't want to do this all over again. This sucks, but then my body's still doing it. And I'd be like, yeah, it's just so funny. I relate so hard that when you're like, fuck, because that's the exact same feeling. I
So
wake up and pat
scary.
myself. I'd even look at Megan and she'd wake up and be like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "I'm not drunk, am I?" And she's like, "No, dude. Go to sleep, dude. You're not drunk."
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
I
it was
had
such
them
a
in the
such
first
a
couple of
relief
years.
too. It's like
Yeah.
like it was just a dream.
I don't gotta do all that shit again.
Sorry, John. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm just gonna say is I had similar in the first couple of years for sure too. I remember thinking I thought I was done with this shit, and then it would creep back up, and I guess twofold. Like either my brain is just kind of telling me my old brain, my old self is like, hey, remember when we used to do this? This is, and
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
kind of fighting with the new thoughts that are like, we don't do this shit anymore because this is what's going to fucking ruin our lives. And if we're,
Right.
it will kill us if we're lucky, because if not, then we will live with the fact that we have to drink again and again and again.
Do
And
it over again. Yeah.
That's
uh,
that's where I was going with it, was that old voice, that's echoes. Those dreams are like these weird little echoes of of that past self, and that sort of, that little demon inside, that's kind of that little voice that's still there. I mean, that's where I was going with that. Thank you for bringing
yeah.
that back.
Well, I'm fucking grateful that I, I'm grateful that you had the accident, and I'm grateful that you had the fucking that particular moment to bring you back around, because I know there were a couple of times, like I remember when I was trying to invite everybody to my 40th birthday party, and I was sober at the time, and I remember having a phone conversation with you, and you were pretty you sounded pretty intoxicated to me, and you were really upset, and you were sad, and you were kind of crying. You were crying, and you're like, I can't make it, and all this stuff, and I was like, it's totally cool, dude. Like, it's all right, and like,
Yeah, I think I
think,
remember that phone call. Yeah.
and I just like I didn't know what to say, because I mean there was nothing to say. I couldn't say like, hey Coda, it's all right. You just need to get sober. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that would have fallen on deaf
Deaf
ears,
ears.
right?
Yeah, totally. No, totally.
So I mean, I'm just glad that you came upon this how you did. I mean, I'm sorry that it took what it took, but like,
Yeah, I mean, knowing myself the way that I do now, I don't know if anything short of something sort of catastrophic would have done the trick, to be honest with you. I'm just, I come to terms with the fact that I'm just really stubborn, and kind of that's just, things have to be pretty catastrophically bad in order for me to make some kind of major change. That's just me,
yeah.
unfortunately. It's one of the flaws in my character, I guess, or maybe not, though. I try to turn it around. I try to make that stubbornness work for me on the other side, which is, whenever I think about it, and there have been times, especially at some of the family functions, where people, I don't know if you've run into this, and you probably have. You have somebody that's just like, who's like the hardcore drinker, who's like, and they find out you're sober. It's like they'll kind of pat you on the back and go, yeah, cool, you don't drink anymore. I'm gonna get you a drink. You'll have a drink with me.
Yeah.
I'll get you to have a beer with me. It's just like, man, like, I can use that stubbornness to my advantage on the other side, where it's like there isn't anything you could do or anything you could say, Sam, that's going to make me just have a fucking beer with you. Like, get over it, dude. And it works. I can make it work for me, make that stubbornness work for me on the other side, which is a great thing, So it's sort of like turning a liability into an asset in a way, or at least that's the way I'm trying to think of it. And it does work. It works fantastically well for somebody who's really stubborn. You just have to use it in the right way.
Right. Use your powers for good.
Yeah, use it. Yeah, come to the light side, man. Stop hanging out with Darth Vader.
I just had to fucking give two Mormons the shine right now, dude.
Oh yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, that's why I got up, because Megan's doing her taxes right now with her lady, and the fucking Mormons came knocking on the door, and Olive's in the front, and she just freaks the fuck out, because she's like, there's two dudes out there, and that little yappy dog is just losing his mind. And I just opened up the door, and I'm all, not tonight, fellas, and slammed the door shut and locked it.
Dude, I used to remember, dude, when we lived at the Silver Lace, every time the Jehovah's or the Mormons would come, we would plan something special for them.
Yeah, dude. I was telling someone about how Cristal would send her son, her big old thick-neck ass son, to collect the rent, and you'd be like, dude, she's sending muscle. Like, that dude's big as fuck, dude. Like, you need to pay that guy.
Dude.
He's gonna kick our ass, Wagner. And I'm like, all right, we'll get the rent.
That's why she had that guy, man. That's why she, that's why she was such an effective apartment manager, was because she had that muscular redneck son, dude.
That guy's gonna fuck us up, Wagner. I feel like I better go do some travel back fucking tramp stamps, dude.
Right? I mean,
But
it's
yeah, I
just
was just laughing. That's why I got up because I was just like, sorry, fellas, not tonight. Just
Go, man.
you didn't want to invite them in.
uh,
Ask their no.
or Olive, dude. She's like 10 years old and is just like not ready to be alone in the living room, apparently.
No.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the long and short. That's the long and skinny of it. The short and skinny of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks,
we've
Coda.
definitely been talking a little bit longer than you guys usually probably do. I'm sure you can edit this down though if you have to, you know.
Nah, it's fine.
Dude,
No,
I
it's
always tell him to edit and he always just runs it flat. Even when I say dumb shit, he just leaves the dumb shit in, dude.
you know how long it would take for me to like edit out all the dumb shit, and then we just have
exactly. Just be a
5-minute podcast.
Just be
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
to me saying, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But no, it's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing it. And I guess the thing that I love is like I'm glad that like Jerry and I are able to commiserate on certain things about our particular programs of sobriety, but it's always good to hear like how somebody else goes about it, because I don't have
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I feel the same way, guys. I mean, now that I don't really go to meetings or anything, like you guys are kind of my meeting a little bit. Like I always feel that way. Like when I talk, and Jerry, I haven't talked to you in forever, dude. We really need to start talking more.
Yeah, you should.
I know it's weird, the way things go, but the whole name of the episode here is keeping in touch, right, guys? And,
Right.
so with that in mind, bearing that in mind, I mean, I definitely want to kind of make more of an effort to keep in a little better touch, especially with you, Jerry. This is the first time I've actually had a conversation with you in like 6 years, dude.
We talked for a while on your birthday last year I was going to bring that up because it made my day, actually. Because I was waiting for the bus and I was like, fuck, it's Coda's birthday. So I called you and we talked for about 10 minutes. And you were telling me you had been sober for a year and you were selling guitars on Reverb Nation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then we kind of talked a little bit and then I hung up the
talk last year.
Yeah, and then I hung up the phone and it like made my day. Like it literally did. I've never had anybody like I'm so fucking jaded, people don't make my day. And like I was in a good mood. Like I was like on the bus like, fuck yeah, Coda's doing really good. It like made my day, dude. I called my dad. I'm like, Coda made my day. Nice. And people don't. I mean, and when I would hear from John in the beginning too, you'd make my day too, buddy.
Don't worry. Yeah, okay, I'm not getting jealous over here. It's
no, but it really did, man. And like, yeah, we do need to talk. Yeah, definitely talk more. Yeah, but time is weird, man, and we all go through these changes and shit happens and.
Well, yeah, it's just growing up and stuff, and I don't know, man. It's weird. You were just mentioning Olive is 10 now.
Yeah, she's just turned 10. Yeah, yeah.
Shit, dude, I can't believe that.
Yeah, I see you on the PS4 playing GTA.
Yeah, dude,
you're always racing. You like race constantly.
Dude, I am a racing fanatic on GTA.
And I'll jump on with you sometimes. You'll just be like shooting up somebody and be like, get in the car, and all right.
That's the thing though, man. Like I've kind of I really started to focus on the racing, like the PvP stuff, the open lobbies, dude. They're so crazy. Like, and I'm not even that good. That's all I do is get smoke with like these 12-year-olds, dude. I just feel so pathetic when I get on there.
Though.
The racing, I'll whoop their asses, man.
Or else it'll just say Coda 1 in the strip club.
Coda 1, there was one. I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to John. It's just like Coda 1's GTA 5 in the strip club. I was like, what's up? He's either looking at the titties or shooting the club up. It's one of the, he's just throwing hand grenades in there.
Oh.
But yeah, my kid's 10, man. She's 10 years old. She's in the fourth grade.
I can't believe that. That's so crazy to me, Jerry.
Yeah. She plays the drums.
She's got more sobriety than all of us put together.
Yeah, she's got way more sobriety than me, man. She's got 10 years sober. Yeah, she plays the drums. She's a good kid, man.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you too, Jerry. Is Joel still here in Phoenix, isn't he? Or
yeah, yeah. He's in Chandler.
Okay.
I play games with him all the time.
I see you guys on there together. You're almost always playing like Tom Clancy's or some shit, or
yeah.
Well,
for the world.
I do want to wrap it up here for our listeners. That's okay. No, I mean
He always kills the video game talk, man.
we always end up talking about some kind of fucking video game. I'm playing that Horizon Zero Dawn or something.
That, dude, it's fun.
It's pretty fun.
What's that all about? Is it?
You're this young, almost like a Viking girl, goes around shooting up robots with a bow and arrow and a magic sword.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. But yeah, so awesome, dude. Thank you for sharing and keeping in touch. And I think it's important, we talk all the time about like connection and being connected with people and how important it is to sobriety and
It is.
recovery and shit, and just like checking in, man, and like not getting stuck in your own fucking head and your own fucking world, because that's
Yeah,
what we're really good at.
I think
Or we
yeah,
were.
it really is. I mean, it's important to keep in touch when things are going well, so that you can call when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because that's when it really matters. It's really important to have somebody that you can call if you are having a bad day. If you're having one of those kind of days, and it makes things a lot easier to get through. Like it, and it is important to have a community of people, that know what's up with you, so that when you do call and you're having a bad day, that they can sort of talk you down and get through it. Because it's very important. It's important because the other thing being, it's important to those other people that you're okay too. You don't realize that. I didn't realize it when I was, drinking a lot and stuff. And you don't realize that the people out there that care about you, that care about what happens to you, it's really hard on them. And so, it's important to keep in touch with those people so that they know you're okay, because it does them good too. So
I would be lying to you if I told you that Jerry and I didn't have conversations about you and be like, is he going to be okay, or are we going to get a fucking phone call that he's, that crosses your mind.
I know, and of course, once again, I feel like it's because I don't go to the meetings that you're just like, that white knuckler, he's not gonna last.
No, not at all. No,
not now. But I just meant like when you were drinking, it would be like, is he gonna fucking kill himself? Like,
or
how
is he
long?
gonna get a car accident, or
yeah,
is he gonna get hurt and fall off a roof or something?
That was the legitimate concern. That was
yeah.
But no, I'm doing. I thought you meant nowadays. Like
white knuckling it, dude.
No, I'm feeling pretty watertight these days, boys. Like I gotta say, like as time goes by, the one thing about the cool thing about getting the 2 years thing is just like I'm feeling pretty much on solid ground with it, and I'm feeling really good about that aspect of it. The more time you get, the easier it gets, and the more stable you feel. It's pretty sweet, actually. I gotta say. Yeah.
And it builds momentum.
Yeah. It does, man. It does, like, kind of like I said about that dream, man. It has its own little thing where it's like, oh, dude, I didn't just throw away 2 fucking years, did I? God damn it! Like, and that's the way I feel about it. I'm really protective of it. I was really protective of it when it was new and fresh and stuff, but nowadays, I mean, it's like, I definitely, feel that. It's pretty, but it gets stronger, as time goes on, if you let it and if you do the right things with it. So.
Well, thank you for sharing, man. I appreciate it. It's awesome.
It was awesome to talk to you guys. Like, feel free to invite me back at any other time or whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
I want some Coda perspective on shit. Let's do it.
Yeah. Next time, you guys definitely have to do more talking. I've talked more in the last hour and a half than I have in the last 6 months. So.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you guys. Awesome.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.